Welcome back to Transcriber from Reddit. Today's topic comes from the subreddit exLutheran, posted by user, now deleted, over 9 days ago, as of recording. The post is a text post that is titled, Back to School. The text reads as follows. What kind of things did you see in Lutheran schools that would shock others outside of the religion? Side note, I chose to record this because this has to do with going back to school, since we're in the month, or a couple weeks removed, perhaps, if you or your loved ones still attend parochial school, from the start of school. What do you remember? What do you recall? Or what do you recall when sending your kids to a WELS Parochial School? This user had multiple points, all of which would probably shock outsiders. First point, church attendance. Second point, transgender parent not allowed on church/school property, parentheses, not even the parking lot, end parentheses, to pick up their child. Third point, pastor's wife said the school can't enroll a child of a same-sex couple. Fourth point, teachers with little or no educational training outside of Lutheran colleges. Fifth point, outdated curriculum materials, especially in reading. Point 6, intentionally overworked called teachers. Seventh point, so many meetings and most accomplished nothing. Eighth point, chapel every week for half hour to an hour, very passive educational experience. Point 9, broken furniture and outdated technology. 10th point, school tuition used for the church expenses. Last but not least, 11th point, lack of basic knowledge in health and safety, parentheses, including supervision of students, end parentheses. The user ended this list by saying, just a few on my list. What's on yours? As of recording, this post had 40 upvotes and 85 comments. I will cover some of the comments down below soon. First, a couple things, though, from when I grew up in the WELS parochial system. It was crazy how much your grade was weighted with the fact of how much church attendance you had, especially over the summer. Pastors, teachers, kids of called workers of other staff who essentially had to attend church the entire summer, essentially had a better grade, and that was lumped into the religion grade at my school. If you didn't have perfect attendance over the summer, you were treated as if it was your fault. The nicer teachers would maybe comment about it, or just take silent attendance from the students, as in you write down the number of Sundays in the summer that you attended church, and you gave that to the teacher, and then the teacher would count it up, but they wouldn't say anything about it or single any kids out. The other thing that would shock others outside of WELS was the amount of time that was devoted to religion. Christ-light dominated classroom time, and so did chapel on Friday mornings. For myself, I went through 4 years of catechism, starting from 5th grade going through 8th grade. Hymn memorization and verse memorization that happened in the grades previous was immediately overtaken by what does this say memorization. And finally, perhaps not so shocking to members outside of WELS was the lack of sex education. In 6th grade, I had a teacher that wanted to divide up the class, my class, as well as the 5th grade class, and divide it up based off of the sex you were born with, and then you would watch a video that would give you a very cursory sex education. I will say it was a lot more informative than most of the other teachers making snide remarks about how hot and horny teenagers got. I said some things that I remember. Now let's go down and read some of the comments from what other people remember. User Emaluesque posted Friday chapel with money being collected from little kids. CEF stamps. Again, taking money from little kids to spread, quote, the word, end quote, to far off places that don't need it. Very little actual science being taught. Parentheses, dinosaurs, not in a WELS school, end parentheses. Very little actual science being taught. Being taught to fear the outside world. Bullying is character building. Bullying is character building. Stop whining about it. And worthless memorization. User Godfather of Green Bay responded, saying, I remember my 5th through 6th teacher saying that dinosaur fossils were put in ground by Satan to distract from creation. That does not surprise me. I wouldn't be surprised if any of my teachers said it, but I also can't remember that far back. User Death_invisible said, memory work. Another user, PDX Craig, commented, no special education/behavioral programs or classrooms for kids. Everyone in the same classrooms with the same expectations, regardless of learning ability or whether they have ADHD, etc. Zero training or education for any teacher on how to manage behavior in the classroom or child psychology. User OK_today 2182 commented, responding to PDX Craig, saying, this has long-lasting trauma for neurodivergent and learning disabled students who are taught they aren't, quote, normal, end quote, and expected to be the same. Also causes bullying, parentheses, which is unchecked, end parentheses. Side note, that is true. That is a permanent feature of the parochial school that I went to. Bullying existed all the time, every day. Maybe it was because we were a smaller parochial school, or maybe it was just the fact that my family was new. Either way, bullying existed. And it existed to the nth degree. Continuing on, user natural-sky-1128 commented, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but I don't believe that religious schools or universities should exist. The purpose of a school/university is to educate without personal biases, agendas, or religious or political viewpoints. The idea of having a school which explicitly teaches history or science, parentheses, or even math, end parentheses, through the lens of a particular religion goes against everything I believe as a professor in higher education. Just imagine how unethical it would be to have a Republican high school, or a Democrat high school, or a communist high school, or a libertarian high school. If any such high schools existed, they would immediately be shut down and there would be a public outcry, and yet there are Christian high schools and universities everywhere in America, and it is accepted as a completely normal part of our country. So many people, parentheses, including members of my own family, end parentheses, get 100% of their education, from kindergarten through graduate school, only from Christian schools. They live their whole lives within an echo chamber and don't even know it. Side note, user Natural Sky 1128 has a point. The reason it is unique within American education, though, is because the rights or freedom of religion is enshrined in our Constitution. And when you have that kind of freedom, you're going to have that freedom enable these kinds of parochial schools. I continue reading. User Feelin' Screwed commented, grade school. Learn 5 Bible verses and recite to pastor before start of religion class every morning. Tuition free only if you regularly attend that school's affiliated / next door church, reporting church attendance. In 8th grade, forced to learn 100 Bible verses so you can stand in front of the church body and recite on demand during confirmation service. Every year required attendance and unending use of school days and weeks leading up to 3-hour kids' Christmas service, along with required attendance night before for dress rehearsal. Similar required attendance 7th, 8th grade to a very long Good Friday service where you are required to sing and perform for the church body. High school, required attendance to daily is in all caps, 45-minute chapel service, required religion class every semester. Having father of co-student you don't like, and who doesn't like you be your advisor, have pastor teaching religion class, discuss how he was a virgin on his wedding night. Side note, that does unlock a memory of being required to do the 3-hour kids' Christmas Eve service. Does anyone else remember the brown paper bags of peanuts and apples they got afterwards? Not enough compensation for having to memorize and perform and sing and do it every single year. User Kaylee Meister commented, saying, I'm so indoctrinated that all of that seems normal to me. SMH. User OK_today2182 commented, school staff not accountable for mandated reporting who ignore bullying, physical assaults, and sexual abuse. Remember, if you are in a voucher state, tax dollars are proudly funding this. Lack of supervision by school staff who don't even understand that supervision needs to happen. Side note, user OK_today2182 is completely correct. It's something I didn't realize then, but I realize looking back now that staff not only was overworked and underpaid, but probably wasn't even kept up to date with the current standards and training required by state if you were to teach in public school. Because they are parochial school, they fall under different guidelines, and they think that the secular rules don't apply to them, even though there's good reason for why the secular public schools have such high standards for their teachers. I continue reading. User Here for the Wine commented, in high school, our religion teacher had several classes where we watched these videos from some dude who used to be into drugs and rock and roll and had converted and became a minister. His whole ministry was teaching about how rock music was of the devil, even Amy Grant. I was pretty sheltered, and that whole video series really fucked me up because I had never even listened to Kiss or AC/DC. I distinctly remember the video host saying drummers wouldn't be in heaven because drummers kept time and there is no time in heaven. A couple of years ago, I found the series on YouTube and watched it all. It was healing to watch it again with my deconstructed lens. Side note, that user does provide the link for that YouTube channel in further comments down below. User Open with D commented, my daughter was in first grade when the teacher took church attendance on Mondays. When a first grader would say they didn't go to church and was asked why not, if they said they were too busy, she'd say, quote, aren't you glad Jesus wasn't too busy to die on a cross for you? End quote, to a first grader that has no say in the decision to go to church or not? Question mark, exclamation, question mark, exclamation, question mark, exclamation. That was so messed up. User Inked Ferns responded to Open with D, saying, I remember this all too well. When we got to 7th through 8th grade, the pastor who taught catechism class required us to fill out sermon summary worksheets every week in church, and anyone who didn't turn one in had to stand up to face the class and explain why they didn't attend church that week. Good times. Side note, does not sound like spiritual abuse at all. Nope, sounds completely normal. Yes, that is sarcasm. Final comment I will be covering is from user Don't Eat the Cookies Mom, who says, physical assaults. There was a dude named Tom Welch that used to hurl water bottles at children using his full strength when he was having temper tantrums about youth sports. Side note, Tom Welch used to work at Fox Valley Lutheran High School in Appleton. If you have any news about him or you want to share any stories about him, please feel free to reach out to me. I continue reading. I saw several bottle headshots over the years, and then Tom would feel all guilty and give that child extra attention, pretend to be all friendly and silly in class the next day. WELS eventually shuffled him away from children and rewarded him with a different job rather than severing all ties with it. Lots of temper tantrum stories. There was a coach up in Wisconsin that broke a child's hand 15 or so years back. He still gets to work with kids around St. Marcus. Side note, if you have any stories or any information about that, please reach out to me. I continue reading. There's a teacher in Ohio that got caught at a movie theater with one of his students. They are a name is in all caps, and still allowed around kids. Again, side note, if you know anything about this, please feel free to reach out to me with the details. I continue reading. WELS cares about family names and protecting their own above all else. They do not care about the safety of the children in their care. Of all things discussed, that is most certainly true. If they did care about the children in their care, they would have taken a lot more of the abuses and the cover-ups and the scandals that happened a lot more seriously, and they wouldn't try to brush them under the rug like any other organization does. Again, please feel free to reach out to me with any information you have regarding these incidents or anything you want me to share or cover. I promise to keep confidentiality, and if in doubt, I will reach out to you to verify that confidentiality will be maintained. I hope you got something out of the video today, and I hope that you enjoy your week, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.